On day 79 of the Nancy Guthrie investigation, a hidden digital transaction was just exposed. A secret message was sent directly into the kidnapper's Bitcoin wallet, and according to a retired FBI special agent, what is happening behind the scenes isn't a standard ransom negotiation anymore. It is a highly calculated trap. Before we dive into the chilling new psychological profile of the suspect, a profile that suggests this crime might have been 10 years in the making, I need to hear from you on this one. Do you believe that kidnappers are amateurs who made a massive mistake? Or is this a highly organized syndicate? Drop your theory in the comments right now and tell me where you're watching from. I read every single one. To understand how massive this new development is, we have to look back at the very beginning. Nancy Guthrie, an 84-year-old woman, vanished from her home in Tucson, Arizona, nearly 80 days ago. Early on, 2 ransom notes were sent directly to local television stations. These are the exact notes Savannah Guthrie publicly referenced when she stated her belief that they were legitimate. Those notes included a specific digital wallet address for a Bitcoin ransom demand. For weeks, everyone assumed that Bitcoin wallet had just been sitting there, empty and ignored. But that wasn't true at all. Investigative reporter Brianna Whitney of the CBS affiliate in Phoenix just uncovered that there was highly strategic activity in that exact wallet. On February 10th, shortly after the initial letters were received, a small amount of money was deposited into the account. But it wasn't just money, it was accompanied by a direct, unyielding message: "We are ready to talk, contact us." Along with that message was a secure link providing the perpetrators a way to reach out. Since that day, there has been zero visible activity. So, what does that actually mean? I sat down with retired FBI Special Agent Steve Moore to get the reality of what happens inside a federal command center, and his assessment changes the entire narrative of this case. Moore believes this deposit was almost certainly the FBI acting on behalf of the family. And it was a masterclass in psychological warfare. The kidnappers operate on the assumption that they hold all the power. They think they can exploit the emotional vulnerability of a grieving family, but the FBI counters that leverage by reminding them of a cold, hard reality. The family is your only source of revenue. If you want a massive payday, you have to play by our rules. More liken this tactic to a high-stakes business transaction. If negotiators come to the table appearing frantic and desperate, the kidnappers will absolutely refuse to budge on their demands. By depositing a small amount of Bitcoin and sending a firm message, the FBI is signaling that they genuinely want Nancy back, but they will not set a dangerous precedent for future crimes by blindly paying millions of dollars without a dialogue. They were actively forcing the anonymous sender into a structured negotiation rather than a one-sided extortion. But here is where the behavior of the kidnappers takes a deeply disturbing turn. Moore stated bluntly that the individuals demanding the ransom have been negotiating in bad faith from day one. In a standard hostage scenario where the goal is financial gain, captors will quickly provide proof of life. In the Guthrie case, the kidnappers provided absolutely no proof of life. They didn't demonstrate any legitimate consideration for Nancy's safety. Furthermore, true professionals who want to collect a ransom operate in the shadows. They use secure, private intermediaries. But these individuals wanted a public spectacle. They routed their demands through television networks and celebrity outlets like TMZ. By turning this crime into a media circus, the perpetrators actively sabotage their own chances of quietly collecting the money. For an experienced agent like Moore, negotiating with entities that demonstrate zero integrity is like negotiating with a rogue state. Because the financial motive looks so inherently flawed, the FBI's behavioral experts are pivoting. The spotlight is shifting away from anonymous extortionists and moving directly into the dark, obsessive corners of the victim's own orbit. If you've been following this case with us since the beginning, hit subscribe right now, because what the profilers are saying about the suspect is something no other channel is breaking down. Dr. Gary Bricotto, a highly respected criminal profiler, just introduced a chilling statistical reality. Looking at the data surrounding violent crimes against women, Dr. Bricotto noted that in 92% of cases where a woman is murdered, the perpetrator is someone she knew. Furthermore, in the vast majority of the 350 abductions that occur annually in the United States, the abductor is known to the victim. Dr. Brucato theorizes that the suspect in the Guthrie case was likely someone she had come into contact with, even if it was just a passing acquaintance or a hired contractor. While Steve Moore cautioned against relying too heavily on general murder statistics for a complex kidnapping, he completely agreed with the underlying premise. The answer is likely buried in the family's past. If Moore were leading this manhunt today, he said he would launch a massive retrospective audit going back at least a full decade. He would meticulously dissect 10 years of bank accounts, cleared checks, and social media footprints. But the true focal point wouldn't be Nancy herself. It would be the exact time frame when her daughter, Savannah Guthrie, skyrocketed to national prominence. This pivots the entire investigation into the terrifying realm of obsession and retaliation. Moore theorizes that the perpetrator is likely someone who fixated on Savannah's public persona, operating under the dangerous delusion that she possesses her infinite wealth, or, even darker, the crime could be an act of pure, unadulterated revenge. Moore recalled a haunting case from his own career where a local DJ was murdered. It turned out the killers were members of an extremist group located 3 states away, retaliating against the DJ for hosting guests who opposed their ideology. Media personalities inherently attract unstable individuals. The FBI is undoubtedly scouring records right now to identify anyone who has obsessively attempted to communicate with Savannah, anyone who has sent harassing letters to her network, or anyone harboring a deep-seated grudge. If the kidnapping wasn't a genuine attempt to extract money, it was almost certainly a strike designed to inflict maximum psychological pain on Savannah through her mother. This theory of an arrogant, deeply obsessed stalker perfectly aligns with the chilling surveillance footage from the night of the crime. Profilers analyzing the masked intruder's body language described his demeanor with one terrifying adjective: unafraid. Moore completely agreed. The suspect didn't move with the frantic panic of an amateur. He moved with an overconfidence and arrogance that borders on hubris. But Moore also noted something crucial. That exact brand of arrogance is usually what ultimately destroys a criminal. Overconfidence leads to fatal mistakes. The complexity of the crime scene also led Dr. Ann Burgess to hypothesize that this was a hierarchical operation, a boss who orchestrated the plan, and underlings who physically executed it. By analyzing the exact manner in which the intruders moved, investigators can determine if they were following a rigid script provided by a superior or improvising on the fly. But what about the darkest theory floating around the internet? What if the kidnapping was entirely staged as an elaborate cover-up for an assassination? What if Nancy witnessed something she shouldn't have? Drawing on decades of experience tracking violent syndicates, Steve Moore swiftly debunked this. Professional cartels, the mafia, and organized crime syndicates operate with brutal efficiency. Their methodology is universally simple: walk in, shoot, go. They do not linger at a crime scene. Abducting a living person, transporting them to a secondary location, and orchestrating a fake ransom campaign requires a massive expenditure of effort and carries an astronomical risk of capture. If the sole objective was murder, executing the victim in the home and vanishing is vastly easier. Therefore, the kidnapping was real, where even if the ransom demands were completely fake. And while behavioral analysts are mapping the mind of the predator, the forensic teams are finally closing in on his physical body. It was recently confirmed that physical evidence recovered from Nancy's home, specifically human hair, has been forwarded to the FBI's Central Laboratory in Quantico for advanced analysis. This evidence had previously been sitting in a Florida laboratory utilized by the local sheriff. For a seasoned investigator like Moore, this is an incredibly promising sign. He explained the violent physical mechanics of the crime. Getting an 84-year-old woman out of bed and moving her requires significant physical exertion. During that struggle, or even just leaning over the bed, it is virtually impossible for an attacker not to leave trace evidence behind. A single hair falling from a shoulder could be the exact key needed to break this case wide open. As day 79 bleeds into day 80, the pressure is reaching a boiling point. The kidnappers thought they executed the perfect crime. They believed their Bitcoin wallets and masked faces made them untouchable. But they underestimated the relentless machinery of the FBI. The authorities are using behavioral psychology to predict the suspect's next move. Digital forensics to trap them in financial negotiations, and revolutionary genetic science to strip away their anonymity. One microscopic strand of hair at a time. The public may perceive silence, but in the shadows, the net is violently tightening. Make sure you are subscribed and hit the bell icon. This case is moving every single day. And the very next update could change everything we know. Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one.